Our topic is optimizing professional career opportunities in operating practice, putting the patient first. First, we want to look quickly at outline before us. We shall introducing and shall look at how opportunities are optimized and conclude. By way of introduction, we want to ask ourselves, why are we here? We want to examine ourselves as operating practitioners in a collective of identifiable opportunities that can be optimized for our benefits by putting the patient first. This is just to do a quick review of the practice or routines around which our different practices are constructed. Provision of infrastructure, and it's easy to forget number one, very easy. This is where the engineers and several other patients come. Housekeeping, which is continuous, preparation of the operating room, preparation of the patient. Then the practitioners themselves prepare the surgical procedure, the monitoring, pre and intra-op, then close up if there's an incision, and then we monitor for recovery. Then we view the case as a team. Ideally, that should happen, and then the completion of documentation. So what does it mean to optimize career opportunities? Basically, this means to act with optimism in order to get the best value for our benefits in the respective dynamics of our professional experiences. So this means that we are paying plenty of attention to optimism, the positive way of thinking about what we can do. I deliberate about this word optimism because from my distant exposure to what happens in the operating room, it's quite a stressful environment. And very often when I've had to intervene as a manager, or for one reason or the other, or for the purpose of infection control or development of SOPs in recent years, I know it's very stressful. It requires a lot of cooperation, a lot of teamwork. It demands a lot of attention, physically draining, mentally draining. So being optimistic about what we do is very important, therefore. Now, how do we go about optimizing opportunities? I want us to look at 4 steps. So we need to understand that this discussion is about building a robust future for yourself. And then when is that future? Is it today? Is it tomorrow? Is it next year? Well, you're probably late. Your future has started already. It started before you were even born. And this reality must always strike us, not only as practitioners, but as humans and as persons. The future often looks like something that is far ahead, whereas it started before us. So the good news, however, is that you're not too late. You can still build your future. So your future started long ago. What should we therefore consider? Consider your special challenges and opportunities in your plan. Often people say, well, I'm from a poor family background. I am located in a security compromised area. My family, my marriage, my job, my several other issues are encumbered with challenges. Then some might say, oh, I'm so abundant with opportunities of richness. I have a rich family background. All of these can either be seen as opportunities or challenges, depending on how we look at them. So, can the challenge become opportunities? Let's look at this. Operating experience in a war-torn country may be a future employment opportunity in medical emergency conditions. So it all depends on the perspective. I've discussed with a nurse before who was so sure that she had severe disadvantages When I arranged those disadvantages together, she saw a huge opportunity before her and she was screaming. How can it be better? If you read the BSc in physics and you're not doing nursing practice and you say you want to medical instrumentation, you don't like nursing, you don't like physics. And I told her that those two qualifications, in fact, put her in an excellent position to work on medical instruments. So it's important that we appreciate our environment and are able to see opportunities in what may look like challenges. When opportunities arise, obviously, and where we have, for example, we are financially enabled, we should be able to advocate for self-made sponsorship or training programs, support the weak, and drive further opportunity for people. Then we need to understand is that your career is only part of who you are. There's no way you can capture everything about yourself and separate it from your career progress. In considering how to optimize your professional career opportunities, think holistically. Holistic thinking is very important, and you'll see that for those of us who are teachers, you may appreciate that the performance of your students will depend heavily on some other factors that are not necessarily classroom or hospital related, but very personal matters. Workers also experience the same things. It takes a leader with emotional intelligence to be able to recognize this. And so for us, we should be kind to ourselves, we should be fair and open to ourselves, and think holistically about time, relationships, our personal values, our commitments, our health, and other matters anytime we're looking at career opportunities. So how do we go about optimizing opportunities? So first I want to look at is consolidation and tailoring. When we look at this in terms of our qualifications, things should become clearer. First, we must emphasize that what makes you a surgeon, what makes you a theater nurse, a technician, and what have you in the theater room is the fact that you have fulfilled the relevant local regulatory requirements to be a professional or to be a practitioner. You therefore need to consolidate your professional standing. This is very important because looking at the future must always start by looking at where we are now. Very often, some people plan to further their career without examining their qualifications closely. It comes all too late when people don't quite realize, for example, that their practicing license has expired, continuing education requirements have not been met, and so on and so forth. So it's always important to be sure that you're on good professional standing to start from there. Now, in the context of the current employment, it's also important that you tailor your educational pursuits to satisfy promotion or position requirements. So just now, you're looking at the future. But what qualifications do you have now? The qualifications we have now will determine the extent to which we are ready for the promotion or position of the future. Now, if there's a destination country or institution in mind, it's also important that the tailoring meets those requirements. Sometimes there's uncertainty about the future, and which is completely normal. So I hear things from a lot of health workers and careerists complaining that they have uncertainties about where to go. And I often want to emphasize that uncertainty is not a negative thing. It's an opportunity for you to prioritize, to examine your areas of strength and weaknesses, and then to move on. But when there are possibilities ahead of you, you should be able to list them and make provision for them. That such diverse approach to building the future is not wastage. It just means that one is strategically available for multiple opportunities. It's desirable to be locally and globally relevant as much as possible. Sometimes our local realities may not necessarily fit into the kind of opportunities we are looking forward to. Therefore, we need to look beyond the present, look beyond our locality in constructing our future careers and opportunities. So we should remember to consolidate and tailor for the future and look at our requirements for different purposes. Information is powerful. I've discovered that many people have a guesswork as to what to do, where they are going, what the requirements are. It's always important to ask questions. If you want to further your education, ask questions. There will be requirements for indexing, residency, professional registration, and so on and so forth. Ask questions. Now, for all purposes, it's important that general educational qualifications are right, professional regulations are well followed, and the soft skills are built in. Many people are interested in remunerations. It's always important to clarify this and your expenditure pattern. Sometimes changes in regulatory requirements change. The updates, it's always important to find out. The current requirements for your certification or your registration or license may be different from what it was 10 years ago. So you might as well expect that changes might take place with time and in other places. At every stage and direction of our career growth, it's important that we examine the tools we have, that is the educational equipment that we have. We should organize the approach to the qualifications. It's often very important to look at the future. Just last week, I addressed my students and told them that it would be very wise for many of them to start looking at artificial intelligence. Even if you don't take a course in it, at least study it, get to know how you can apply it in medicine. That was after I gave a lecture at a scientific conference. And I thought that it was important for students to start aligning their thoughts in that direction. If you look at what the future holds, AI is moving very fast. And that affects us too. No matter what we're studying as careers in in operation room practice, we should always bear in mind what the future holds. Specialty qualifications, higher degrees should be colored according to future tastes and present day realities. So what future requirements do you need to address now to optimize opportunities for yourself? So we should be looking at that within us, and we should be asking ourselves that question. We must select our desired occupational pursuits and skill acquisition to match the requirements for basic career or specialty of choice. We must be sure that the educational institutions that we are when we are seeking certifications and degrees are accredited. It can be a very wasteful exercise after acquiring a qualification only to discover that the institution is not accredited for the purpose that we seek. Now, we need to also match the gaps in our environment with interests. How do we identify gaps? It's like doing a market survey in business. And from here on, I'll be looking at business approaches to the way we think. The gaps represent unmet or inadequate needs, inadequately met needs. Empirical needs assessment will therefore be useful. Surveys assessing needs are uncommon. That means that we have a lot of work to do in order to identify the gaps. So adverts can be useful. Studying advertisements. Advertisements usually indicate patterns in different environments. the more the demand for a particular profession or practitioner, and the more we're likely to expect interest to shift in that direction. One thing about gaps, point to opportunities. A lot of gaps can be identified, and I want to encourage every one of us to be practical about this. Service affordability gaps, service accessibility gaps, skill gaps, human resource services, educational gaps, and research gaps, advocacy gaps, a lot of equipment-related gaps, and more. Understanding these gaps will help us understand the direction in which opportunities lie. Where do your interests lie? What do you enjoy doing as an operating room practitioner? What would you miss doing if you were stopped? What are your new interests, having exhausted your old interests? Interests change. Sometimes what you were interested in 10 years ago may not be the same as you're interested in now. So, do you want to change professions? You may be a technician in the operating room, and now you want to be a theater nurse. What are your unattained heights and aspirations? So what are the possibilities around all of these? How do we weave them? How do our interests align with gaps of opportunities in order to point to them? So the next natural step is to identify what these opportunities are. So when we say opportunities, in what sense are we expressing ourselves? Well, better job satisfaction, I would say. This doesn't say it all, but it gives us a direction along which we should think, or we might want to think. Some determinants of job satisfaction may not be easy to change. A lot of studies have shown that age, nationality, race, gender, marital status, parental status, health status, and others are important determinants. But the list just expressed are not things that are easy to change. They change naturally, or there are events that we walk into and are difficult to change. But they should guide our constructs. Our understanding of them will guide our constructs and choice of opportunities on how to optimize them. For example, if you're not, if you're 70 years old,
there's no bypass. Everything there is connected to 1 meter. I have paid for 9 meters. They are going to give me.
Okay, thank you. I hope I can continue. Yes. A 70-year-old woman may want to look more at management-related practice rather than something requiring physical stress, such as an orthopedic practitioner. Some criteria for job satisfaction are attainable or achievable by working smart and through merit. They should guide our constructs also. Improved remuneration is a very important criterion for many people. Promotional opportunity for holding positions of authority in management, and then leadership, small team leadership, large team leadership, harmonious relationship at the workplace, where emotional intelligence is practiced, is also a very desirable criterion and can help us to measure the extent to which satisfaction can be attained, and also often determines the direction of which many practitioners conceptualize their potential for skill improvement is also an important factor. So moving forward, we need to look at how we enhance capacity. Capacity enhancement is a very important way of building, enhancing, optimizing career opportunities. I would encourage in strong terms that every operating room professional should have a personal development program. In the absence of one, it is very possible to go in the dark or jump at any opportunity and jump back again, or get confused and sometimes get frustrated. It's important that we find time to learn how to develop such a thing and continuously review the development program. It's not anything cast in stone. It's a dynamic way of thinking about the direction along which we want to build value for ourselves. Leadership is also important here in enhancing capacity. Wherever we are, let us seek to influence how decisions are taken and what is done. Leadership here is not just about holding positions. It's about being relevant, to participate in what happens and how things are done. Mentorship at different levels of our career growth. Mentorship is possible. In fact, something I encourage very much is peer mentorship. So even if you're the most junior, you're one of the most junior in the operating room, there is room for peer mentorship. There are persons whose guidance, who will need your guidance for one or two things. Be ready to support. The provision of mutual support and direction and guidance as to what to do, how to do, sharing experiences can turn out to become mentorship over time. Continuous evaluation of self in terms of quality of care, quality of practice, human relations, soft skills, and so on and so forth is very important. Networking, like what we're doing in this organization, is a very powerful way to enhance capacity. This networking provides and I want to thank the organizers program providing such opportunity and who have been benefiting from it. Networking also goes beyond just in-house networking. It has to do with communicating from time to time with different professional groups in different places in the context of operating practice. Soft skills are very important: interpersonal skills, teamwork, and communication. We talked about the research. We mentioned it along the line, but it will continue to so do. One thing that many people easily miss out is that if you do research or collect data and not publish, then it's unethical. It is unethical because resources are wasted. Therefore, I want to appeal to us to be focused on publications. Even if what we do does not necessarily constitute research, but it reflects patterns of experiences that others can gain from. Let us seek to publish them because it enhances capacity for self and for others. Let's not forget ourselves. Let's not work so hard that we lose out in work self-care balance. If you work too much, you ignore yourself, you waste away. If you take care of yourself at the expense of work and your work suffers, you also suffer. So a careful balance is always required. And doing all of this together and even more is a very powerful combination of capacity enhancement. So when we talk of putting the patient first, what do we really mean? Well, it means in our context that all the gaps and opportunities we are identifying must reflect patient needs. And it inevitably does. We should be guided by patients' unmet needs in our choice of career opportunities. And it has a very sound logic based on business, as we shall now see. Now, I happen to be very interested in business. I'm into health business. I studied marketing apart from, in addition to medicine and co. It's important that our business approach is used in exploring opportunities for optimizing value for ourselves. In business perspective, we say the customer comes first. And our patients are our customers in a sense. So what do customers need? They need products, that is goods and services. And as we say in modern parlance, we talk about patient experience, customer experience rather. In our context, we should be talking about patient experience. It's a part of the product mix. What are the needs of our patients? What about education? What are the technical educational gaps that need to be filled in order to meet the needs of patients? What about innovation? Surgeons do this once in a while, even if the procedure has never been described. The surgeon may choose to create a shunt, all right, in order to drain a cavity. The surgeon may decide to reconstruct a bowel in an unusual way. That is innovation. It does not constitute research, but at least something is done to see if value addition can be said to have been done for a patient. Research then follows to see whether these innovative interventions are beneficial on the long run, and whether it can be replicated, whether findings can be generalized. But even then, in our everyday practice, without innovation, our routine practices can be subjected to hypothesis testing so that we can evaluate what we do and be guided by informed decision-making from research. Answers to the above in our actions and our practices tend to provide information or inform our business decisions and therefore our career decisions. In business, we talk about strategic positioning and strategic advantage. Strategic positioning, or SP in business, refers to value creation by an organization for its customers in order to advantageously differentiate itself from competitors. This may involve creating a new product or experience, or improving on an existing one in order to optimize opportunities for more profit. Businesses think a lot about profit. But how do they go about it? It's by creating value for customers. And that's the way we should think about optimizing opportunities for our career progress. If we don't appreciate patient needs and we just look at profession for profession's sake or practice for practice sake, we may not be thinking business. Business way of thinking helps us to take the best decisions that provide the greatest value, both for the patient and for us. A target market must be willing and able to pay for it. Strategic advantage is what comes out from the SP. It means, therefore, that in our line of thinking, insofar as there's a payment structure that can cover for service delivery, why not? Our line of thinking should always put that into consideration. Remember, we talked about interests earlier on. So all of these come into our choices as to how we strengthen capacity, how we build optimism around our choices. So, from the perspective of operating room practice, what kind of position? I want each of us to examine that. Well, why do we not put in the patient first? I think it's obvious from what we've said so far. Without a patient, there can be no operating room practitioner. The burden of the duty of care for patients rests heavily on practitioners, and this should inform career preferences. The patient initiates a web of operating room services, because first of all, they have to be patient before we can use the operating room. Improvement in practitioner skills and working conditions are meant to deliver better services to the patient. So the patient sits on the driver's seat in a sense. The way there are people who contest the idea of patient being first. I don't think it's a necessary contest, because when the practitioner can become first is by placing the patient first. And that is sound from a business perspective. So what do? Putting these thoughts together, it means in terms of putting patients first. We should make our specialty and subspecialty choices according to patients' unmet needs. We should look at where service gaps occur, educational gaps, innovational gaps, research gaps, and the many other gaps we listed earlier on. We should also create harmonious and caring environments with our patients. And that means that we have the power to put the patient first. Our relationship with patients can greatly influence the way they relate to us and their willingness to make our profession and our service delivery easier. Let's look at a few examples and cases for discussion. We're not going to discuss the cases, but we'll just mention them. A trusted example of opportunities to optimize. Standard operating procedures. Almost all include interprofessional cooperation. SOPs have implications for patient safety and quality of care. And SOPs are extremely important because they help to bring professionals and practitioners together in a team so that every person has a clearly defined role and there's a sequence or flow of activities that then come into a body of services to deliver. Career opportunities can be developed to address the gaps in SOPs. Gaps here often mean that in many cases there are no SOPs. They are often assumed or imagined. If we look at this that way, then it's possible for practitioners to develop SOPs for utility. Let's look at more components. Are there practice gaps attributed to lack of SOPs? Of course, yes. Are SOPs developed with multi-professional inputs? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Individual professionals sometimes come together and develop SOPs for themselves in a circumstance where other professionals or practitioners are involved. Such an exclusion arrangement often creates gaps in service delivery, even in the operating room. Now, are interprofessional expectations in procedures communicated? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But these questions have been put in place for us to be able to identify where opportunities exist for us to optimize our professional careers. Is there a training program, for example, that brings all this together? Have there been innovative approaches to managing inter-practitioners cooperation? Let me quickly share an example here in intraoperative management of tissue specimens in the University of Benin Teaching Hospital in Nigeria. A few years ago, I was informed that there was a problem with a tissue specimen not being properly handled post-operation, and the issue was investigated. One of the gaps identified was that there were no clear-cut descriptions as to who does what, when, and how. It's an arrangement which is very common in health practice, where we expect everybody to know what to do because there is a tradition in the way we do things. And at the end of the day, when an error occurs, there's hardly any specific to refer to. So that then created an opportunity to develop SOPs. So we now have to put together a team, which I personally led, of nurses and doctors, and then developed an SOP for handling tissue specimens in the operating room. So that solved problems. It then becomes easy to identify who to hold responsible for a particular action and who takes the next step until eventually the pathologists are able to work on the tissue. Similarly, nurses wanted SOPs developed for many of their procedures in the hospital. I was approached to help to develop this. Being a physician myself, and having worked and having an environment where we have a lot of nurses and other professionals, it was easy to work with different practitioners to develop SOPs for nursing practice in University of Benin Teaching Hospital. So such interprofessional inputs can very strongly validate the utility of SOPs. Can research be introduced to identify patterns in determinants of practice gap to inform intervention for best practices? Of course, yes. Can research be conducted to test the utility of SOPs in promoting interprofessional cooperation? Of course, yes. These are research opportunities, and we need to look at them as what we can optimize to benefit. Now, I have some cases here which I have described and hope I would be able to look at them individually as educational way of directing our thoughts, something to help us look at problem solving, decision making with respect to optimizing career opportunities in operating room practice. So Nancy has a post-basic certificate in theater nursing and functions in that role in her current hospital. In planning career progress, she wishes to take advantage of emerging promotion and headship opportunities in pediatric theater nursing in new hospitals in her state. How can she go about it? Notice here that this account talks about her being basically a theater nurse. And then she wants to make progress. She wants to take advantage of promotion and headship opportunities. What should she do? Abbas, an orthopedic and plaster technician, wishes to get married in his country, but has no fiancé yet. How can he integrate this wish with his intention to seize a rarely available scholarship-covered opportunity for an operating room manager's course abroad? So let's look at the difference here. In Nancy's case, it's purely a professional issue to consider. It's practitioners matter, it's business matter, it is core within the career thought. But in Abbas's case, something very personal, like we drew attention to when we discussed 4 steps, has come in as a factor to look at. Which should be the choice, or how can these two be integrated for Abbas? Now, Usman is the only operating room device maintainer in town. He often travels to purchase spare parts for operating room devices for different hospitals. He now wishes to improve on his income. How can he go about it? This is a business way of thinking as an operating room device maintainer. Cynthia is the telemedicine and photography technician assigned to the theater in a private teaching hospital. Her desired opportunity for promotion, improved remuneration seems bleak. But her husband is a leading laparoscopic surgeon in his state and works in his own hospital. His fee-paying trainees are few as they have limited opportunities of viewing his procedures. What can the couple do? So here we have 2 problems. A hint is this: integrating 2 problems can bring about 2 solutions integrated as one solution. That's just a hint. Sabina is a 20-year-old operating room infection control officer. She once never thought she would have a chance to go to school because of her poor family background. The joy of her unexpected attainment is so overwhelming that, along with her lack of hope for sponsorship, she brushes aside the thought of further studies. Do we think Sabina needs help? Bala is the crown prince of his town. He's currently an anesthetic technologist. Following the exit of his father, the late king, Bala's coronation has been scheduled for next month. The custom disallows him from operating room practice. Does he stand a chance to optimize his career opportunity. In conclusion, we have counsel that we consider and manage our pastoral and unique circumstances in the process of optimizing career opportunities, then to consolidate and tailor qualifications in line with our aspirations, to mark the gaps in the environment with personal interests, to identify opportunities, to enhance capacity, and in all, to put the patient first. I want to thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful presentations. I'm sure that most of us indeed have a nice ride with you, sir. And I want to just create an indulgence of the participants. If you get value from what Professor Adeleye has given us, please, you can drop the value. Just drop value in the comment section. Just drop value. And also, if you have any questions, you can drop it in the chat box.
I hope volume was eventually okay. I really hope so.
Yes, it was. The volume was okay, actually.
Thank you very much.
I don't know if Abdul has something to say. I can see that he has his hands raised up. Okay, I'm not sure. Abdul, do you have something to say? Your hands are raised up.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the efforts of Professor who took the time to teach the people around the globe. Basically, I'm from Pakistan and currently I'm in UAE. I recently moved to UAE and I attended the TORG presentation and Zoom meeting, I think 3 or 4 times. And I really appreciate the efforts of TORG, a good initiative by TORG to teach the people and connecting different people from different backgrounds, from different countries, and providing a good platform for continuing education, for development, trends in the theater department. And actually, Professor took all the things and covered all the aspects of this topic. And I really appreciate his efforts, and I learned a lot from Professor. I thank you, Professor. And I would like to add some things, like when it comes to optimizing your career in theater, the word optimizing is, I think, cover all the aspects of your jobs, like your career opportunities, your career development, your job searching or job hunting, and your continue learning. If you are tired and you are thinking of switching your job, you still be optimistic all the way. And it's not easy to work in the theater department. My personal experience, I worked in theater department for more than 5 years, and alongside the job, I did my master's in healthcare management as well. This is the thing that Professor elaborated very clearly in his presentation, that if you want to enhance your career, you need to be promoted in your career. So you have to continue your education alongside your job. So these things are these things really help in your career boost. And second thing is, wherever you are in the world, on any continent you live, but you have to think globally. If you're working in theater department, you have to think globally and you act locally. Whatever your standards and your local entity, you must follow them, but you think globally. You must be connected with the people, with the, I mean, institution who set the standard for global practices. Like everyone in the operation theater department is responsible to fulfill the surgical safety checklist requirement of WHO. That is International Patient Safety Goal 4 of JCI. And wherever you are in the world, you need to be you need to stick with that International Patient Safety Goal 4 for safe surgery. You might consider your local procedures, local laws, but these are, I think, universal laws. That's why I'm saying that you need to think globally and act locally if you are a theater practitioner. So once again, I thank you so much, Professor, for your valuable insight on this topic. And I thank you, the team, Operating Room Global, for conducting such great meeting on Zoom. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Abdul, for that. And I don't know if there's any other person that has a question before I ask my own. Is there any other person that would want to ask Prof a question? Okay, so thank you very much for the insightful presentation, Prof. I'm going to ask a question, and it's also something that just happened recently, because first the question is, who determines if there is a gap in practice? And also, how would you be able to merge optimizing career development as a person and the gap in practice that's been identified or determined by the business development personnel? Like, for example, let me say first, in Nigeria, we have a lot of people in the OR that would probably specialize in something, but their managers will not allow them to. Basically, they will say they would rather prefer them to be in this specialty, or there's no space in that specialty that they are going to. You know, in Nigeria, we run a tight OR that they don't really appreciate specialization. They expect you to be able to scrub for any cases as long as you are on duty. But currently, I'm in the UK, and a colleague of mine just left the hospital where I work. And the main reason why she left was, like, she said she came to the country for professional development and all that. She can't just sit in a place where she's not developing in terms of her career. She has applied for different courses and it wasn't approved. Being that they said they had someone else in that has that skill. So they don't need that in that specialty. They would rather have her work in another specialty. So how would you be able, because I don't think leaving the hospital should have been better, because patient safety, like we said, should come first. Now she has left a gap in terms of staff. Now we are one man down because she's moving to another hospital that is ready, because one of the contracts she signed with them is she wants to do this course and they are ready to sponsor her for that course. So my question now is, how can we marry the two together, like merge the two together? Me wanting to develop in my career and the business development personnel not identifying a gap in practice in the hospital where I work. I don't know if you understand my question, sir.
Yes, very much. Let me respond to a few things that Patrick said. And I want you to learn from his shared experiences. He emphasized the point that I operating locally. It's always important in order to be as broad-minded as possible in our choices of career opportunities and optimizing staying. It's also important that we look at educational opportunities side by side our work experiences. And this links up to your question, madam. One of the things that we're trying to, I would like us to encourage, you might want to look at that at your practice, is avoid vertical reasoning, vertical thinking. And that's what I find questionable in what is happening with the experience you just shared. Why would the business development manager think vertically without consulting with the person who wishes to specialize in a particular area or further studies in a particular area? Is it true indeed that what the business development manager has identified is what the case is, or it is so only because the business development manager thinks so? A collective way of looking at business and looking at career development is very important. So if there is a need right now, and there is no human resource to fill that gap immediately, how does the hospital benefit? You have put it very correctly. As it is now, you're one man down. So the hospital is not gaining. Whereas if the hospital has retained that staffer, she would have had the opportunity to progress in that direction. And then the hospital can emphasize that, look, we have more service delivery in this area and can handle such cases, but and that may in fact influence referral of cases. I don't have the details of what you're referring to, but again, let's keep in mind that the availability of services is an important influencing factor in the kinds of patients we manage. So the more the one specialty is available, the more the kinds of patients that can be managed in that health facility. So business development managers ought to be more broad, ought to be broader in their thinking. Health workers, often technicians and practitioners, should engage them in discussing career issues, not just for the sake of the upward practitioners, but for the sake of the hospital. When there is mutual understanding, hopefully clashes like this can be avoided. So my appeal is that moving forward, all teams should work together to reason through business development for health facilities, understanding the market direction of disease patterns, and understanding the dynamics of what your occupational experiences in the operative room should be. This is what I recommend. I hope I made sense.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. That was insightful, sir.
Mm-hmm.
If there's nobody else that would want to ask Prof question, I think I would hand over to Adebusola Wokole to round up the presentation for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you, everyone, for connecting. Thank you to all the facilitators, the Education and Training Committee of TORG, for this, for organizing such a session. Thank you. Prof is very busy, actually, and even he honored this invitation. I think a few years back, I personally studied in University of Benin Teaching Hospital. So I read his profile. I think it aligned with TORG values, mission, and vision, and I think is an asset that we should actually bring in. And even beyond this presentation, if we have any questions, if we have any queries, definitely we're going to get Prof back, because it's loaded and we will need insights as we are coming up for us junior ones coming up. Thank you so much, Prof, for honoring our invitation. In relation to the presentation, it was very, 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 very insightful. Optimizing career opportunities. Let me just say this topic, it brings memories. That was how TORG was founded in 2015. I was in Nigeria. I wanted to go to another country. I had the option of going to either I want to go to Canada, I want to go to Europe, I want to go to the US. I got 3 admissions in the UK personally. A lot of issues, from financial issues to sponsorship issues. My hands were tied. I was specialized in the operating room from University of Benin Teaching Hospital. But at the same time, I looked online. I wanted to network with people that are in those areas. Like, you have this prospect ahead of you, you have this vision, you want to travel to Australia, but you need someone that is already in Australia to tell you the steps, to show you the way and tell you that this is what you should do, these are the requirements, this is how you're going to go and everything. But literally there was no platform online that could bring everyone together. And there was no way to reach out to people on that in those areas, especially in the operating room environment. Then I had to discuss that with the co-founder. And then we said, why not come up with a plan, bring everyone under one roof? And then we can have this collaboration, we can have this knowledge sharing, we can have this networking, so that you can be in your country, you want to speak with someone in Canada and learn from that person and be mentored in a way, then you can gain the insights you want. And then at the end of everything, you have all these options at your tips. You can weigh them side by side and say, oh, let me go this direction, this is more better, let me go to this direction. So that was how we started, like with 8 members in Nigeria. And today we have over 100,000 members in TORG, and we have 89 countries represented in the organization. So it's a massive thing. It's a big thing when it's actually the operating room itself is diversity. You bring all these ideas. You have mass number of professionals in charge of a patient, all because of the patient. You are all making comments. You are all bringing your expertise together that you want to make a difference in the life of that patient. And Prof mentioned significantly how to enhance capacity. Leadership is one of it. Leadership, like even in TORG was founded not for profit and non-political. We have a significant number of leaders that they didn't start off as leaders, they volunteered their skills. Some started as moderators and then they got promoted because of their skills. They've gained significant insights because of the leadership positions that they took up. And then in terms of mentorship, like what we are doing now, we're all getting mentored by Prof. That is virtually, we're all getting mentored. And in the background, aside this session, you can always go back and ask more questions and see pathways. I was reading Prof's profile and I was like, wow, he has like 4 master's degree and more. That is actually impressive. It's someone that is motivated, that can continue. If you are motivated in your career, if you are fulfilled, then you would be encouraged to keep pursuing your passion, to keep doing what you love. He mentioned networking, which is one of the things that TORG represents. He mentioned soft skills, using your skills, publications. You have to, like, if you want to enhance your capacity, you need to reach out to people, you need to connect with people, you need to look up things. Some people don't even know how to use basic computer applications. Some can send a letter or an email. Some people can't even use Zoom, which is as ridiculous as that is. To enhance capacity, we need to come up, you need to stay updated with latest trends and technologies. And that is exactly one of the things that we are trying to do in TORG. And some things are actually making things more challenging. We keep having these massive laws coming up, these new policies in relation to restrictions of movement, which is happening currently because there was a WHO red list issues that was published, which is currently affecting people from migrating from other African countries to Europe and all over, because the level of it's like these regulatory bodies, let me use Nigeria as an example now, they are actually raising doctors, nurses for other countries. You know, when your people go to school and then they come out of the schools, they zoom off. No one is going to be left behind in another 2 years if we keep going at this rate. So personally, we need a way to enhance our capacity. We need a way for even regulatory bodies even to keep their own staff, their own students and people that they have licensed. They need to be motivated. They need to encourage people in their work, because if you are encouraged at work, you're not going to be looking at another option. If I had the chance, like if I was motivated then a few years ago, I wouldn't even think of going abroad or anything. So that is one of the things that Prof emphasized. Volunteer, he mentioned innovative approaches, he mentioned standard operating procedures. I think personally I've learned a lot from tonight's presentation. So I really want to say thank you so much, Prof, for sharing relevant knowledge, for the insightful presentation, especially it was a significant area that was overlooked. It's been overlooked for a long time now, for bringing that back to limelight. And thank you for using your time out of no time, for dedicating that time even to speak to us. Definitely, we are bringing you back. If you don't mind, Prof, thank you so much. We would like to have you back and to share more insights on other aspects as well, if that would be okay. And then to everyone, thank you for connecting with us. There is always a webinar every 2 weeks across the global platforms. And the regional chapters always have their own webinars as well. So everyone can stay connected, everyone can stay updated with relevant knowledge and with latest innovations and technology in the operating room. And we hope to see you more. This session is recorded and it's going to be published across TORG platforms. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Instagram, Facebook, or on the chapters, you're going to see the notification. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. If you have any other questions that you would like to ask the speaker for tonight, you can still always share aside this session when it's ended. So thank you, everyone. And wherever you are, maybe good morning, good evening, good night, and have a nice night ahead. Bye, 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 everyone.